Ross Dellinger reported this morning that the SEC and Big Ten are going to be in a fight to leave the NCAA. Now, there is one little pushback. Earlier on, before we got to this segment, Greg Sankey did come out with a statement and said, and I'm quoting here, I guess just based off of Ross, I don't have the capacity to just leave the NCAA. It's got to be unanimous. So I don't know if Ross is saying here, like they're talking about it and they want to leave, but it does sound like however, especially with the new CEO ruling in football, that football leave the NCAA. Joe, the SEC and Big Ten are about to fight to get out of the NCAA governance.
So Ross in his piece referenced that this was the quote from the piece.
Okay.
In an unreported and little-known fact, SEC presidents in March quietly authorized their commissioner Sankey to split from the NCAA if he deems that the right move. So that was why Sankey today came out to counter that. We know that Sankey talks a lot to Ross because of how often that we see that he reports quotes directly from him. It's pretty clear. That was also in line with what was brought up in Ross's piece, though, overall, that the administrators are expected to examine the governance proposal and the possibility of separating football completely out from under the NCAA. During its spring meetings last week, the Big Ten swung its support for doing just that, bifurcating football governance. I don't know how more people aren't talking about this because this is absolutely insane. I think that what has become extremely clear, though, Blake, as you just mentioned with the College Sports Commission and a CEO overseeing it, as soon as this settlement case goes through, it is going to become abundantly clear. And there's going to be a lot of lawyers for these conferences that like read all the language and get everything sorted out after the settlement.
If they don't already have done it.
Right. Well, I think that they have. And I think that's why this is getting brought up now with the settlement coming through likely in the next few weeks, which we've been saying for months now.
For 6 months.
I think that it's going to be really freaking clear that the NCAA has no power. It has never had any power, but we have blindly followed it and allowed it to create its own power despite a lot of the things that it has done, and it has tried to hold universities accountable for players and coaches, hold them accountable. The things that they have done has been pretty much unconstitutional. And as soon as that has been proven, the NCAA cannot do a damn thing.
Then why are they only leaving for football?
I think that they still need to rely on the NCAA for it putting on the NCAA tournament for basketball, for baseball, for all these other sports. They need a support system for the Olympic sports. But I think that they've realized that they've created their own system for football. There is no benefit to being a part of them.
How crazy is it that the NCAA could have handed out a piece of paper saying, hey, let's come to an agreement, everybody sign this, that we're going to base our governance off of these rules that y'all set, and we will enforce them. That is exactly what the College Football Commission is going to do.
Yeah.
Think about what we're saying. Joe, it's going to be a piece of paper that they signed that they all agreed to. We're agreeing that if we don't abide by these rules, we can have enforcement. Well, it's technically what they did with the NCAA. Is it not?
Yes. Yes.
What's the difference now?
Well, wait. No. The difference now is that the College Sports Commission's power is backed by a settlement that is backed by the federal government giving it that power. The NCAA was acting independently and putting its own rules and imposing them, and it wasn't challenged until recently. So now there is actual government support.
Commission not independent?
No, it wouldn't be. It's being created in conjunction with the. It's being created in conjunction with the settlement.
Okay, then why do teams have to agree for only enforcement?
Wait, say it again.
Remember our last show, it was stated that, and we discussed this, that the teams have to agree with the conferences in reference to the commission's enforcement rules.
Because they don't want schools going and suing.
That also makes you independent. So you're having to agree.
It's not a matter of independence. It's a matter of
but schools are still having to agree. They don't have to do it.
No, they don't. But the whole premise that's being presented now is that if you don't sign this and approve of receiving punishments from the CSC, you're going to get kicked out of the SEC, the Big Ten, whatever conference that you're in. You're going to
ain't kicking no teams out of their conferences. Rutgers, Vanderbilt, we'll see you. These other ones that make money, they ain't kicking them out. I'm sorry. Another thing, something that was also in Ross's piece, he brought up the CEO format that we just discussed, but he also brought up that you brought up the March incident. Joe, the March incident of teams in the Big Ten giving their backing and the SEC giving their backing. Joe, are we about to just be in full-on chaos for the next 6 months?
I think so. I mean, like that's kind of how I'm reading into it, unless like everything like folds very nicely. Well, we also got to remember though that a lot of the chaos happens in the offseason. I don't know if any of the chaos is really.
Can I tell you what it seems like? Well, let me tell you what it seems like to me. Tell me if you think I'm crazy or not. Greg Sankey and Tony Bertitti are trying to come up with an agreement with the Big 12 and the ACC before all of this goes down. Okay, so that they have an agreement. If they can't get into an agreement, the SEC and Big Ten are going to tell the both of them to go screw themselves. Sorry. We're going to go after it. You don't have a leg to stand on. That's how I'm reading this. Sorry, I don't know if I'm crazy, but that's what it sounds like to me. Either get on board or get the fuck off the train.
Well, and I think that what the counterpart about this that was also referenced in Ross's piece, that private equity is something that has been a quiet driving force. And then this was a blurb that was in there. The latest example was a recent clandestine call that several ACC and Big 12 school presidents and high-ranking athletic administrators held with leaders of a private equity-backed super league. The call earlier this month was had without the involvement of the ACC and Big 12 commissioners and was the second such Big 12 ACC joint meeting since December, with those from Smash Capital, a venture capital firm, proposing a super league model that features a $9 billion promise of cash infusion to college sports. So again, that was brought up in the piece. There was a quote from the Big 12, "We're going to war."
Yeah,
from a Big 12 athletic director, I believe, or president, who was the one who said
why
that.
wouldn't you put your name on that then?
Blake. None of these guys have balls to do that.
No,
not a single one has balls to do that.
I feel like that was a bluff.
Oh, yeah, he did it anonymously. Absolutely was a bluff.
Right. It's a bluff. So do you really have that? Are you trying to scare off Sankey and Petiti? That's how I read it.
I think that this whole thing is just painting that there's warring sides and this is going to bubble up and explode into something. I don't know what it is. I hope that it's not a super league. It was also referenced that the SEC is using Goldman Sachs to explore private equity involvement in the conference.
Great. Hey, let's get Goldman Sachs that blew the bubble in 2008 in the financial crisis.
Dude, this whole thing is just it's a joke that writes itself. It honestly is. It is a continuous joke that consistently writes itself.
You know what?
Absurdity.
This is the time when you could have had a commissioner and said, this is what we're doing. Either get on board or don't. And you know what? Here comes the private equity. We'll have private equity. They got to go through us to get there. So if they, Joe, as a buyer, if I want to go buy Clemson, I can go buy Clemson.
Well, I would think, I don't know, this is speculation. I would think that the College Sports Commission, with that much money funneling into a football program, would maybe have some. I would hope that they would, if they're going to be that much of hard asses and they're going to be the bureaucracy of the future of college football, I would hope that they would analyze something like that happening and that they would be able to stop something like that and say no to something like that. But that's the whole point with this. And it doesn't sound like, as we talked about on the Wednesday show, even though there's going to be a big fight put up against the College Sports Commission and the new CEO premise, that is what we need. It's what we need. That is the first step to fixing things, because otherwise it will be a free-for-all more than it's already been.
Do you remember, last thing, and I got to roll here. Do you remember the last quote in The Dark Knight? Sometimes to be the hero, you got to watch yourself become the villain.
You think it's the SEC?
No, I think it's the joint of the SEC and the Big Ten. Because here's the truth. I don't think Greg Sankey thought that he had enough capital by himself, and that's when he called Tony and said, listen, we hold all the fucking cards, but we got to agree here. We got to agree. If we don't agree, then all of this is just going to be a moot point. Right?
I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point. It's a very fair point.
The Big Ten and the SEC are playing villain right now, and I got to be honest with you. I want them to try to fight the SEC and Big Ten. Let's go see what happens.
Well, I mean,
please, ACC and Big 12, form the Super League and then see where your ratings go.
Yeah, I don't.
Are you going to stop being a Notre Dame fan? Are you going to stop watching Ohio State? Are you going to stop watching Alabama or Texas or Georgia? No. What? Are you?
Well, the whole point is that them being their own Super League, the Big 12 and the ACC, does not get them where they think it does. They need the Big 10 and the SEC. They need those brands.
Without a doubt, because no one's going to stop going to Columbus on a Saturday at noon in August when Texas is in town. It's not going to exist.
No.
All right. At least we finally agreed on something.